Thought I said I won't do this anymore, huh?
I just wanted to feel normal.
Yeah, I know. Can't get the hopes up, though, huh?
Let me see.
It's fine.
Come here.
It's fine.
Oh, you need antibiotics.
It's all right. I can take it.
You can't take it. It's infected.
Yeah.
They've butchered you.
Yeah, I know.
Good morning. Hey. Come on, then. Yeah, good girl. Good morning. All righty. Up, up, up. Okay.
I'm starving.
Well,
Hey, here we go.
breakfast is ready. Ooh.
Starving.
You're starving too. Here we go. Ooh.
When will this end, Mummy?
Soon, darling. Soon. These men can't wage war forever.
Come on, you lot, eat up. Get big and strong. Hey, shh. So your mama gave you chocolate milkshakes for breakfast again, yeah? Come on, eat up.
No, I can't. I can't do it.
There's nothing left, okay? We'll all starve.
No, there has to be another way.
You sold our organs. Look, there's nothing that they want, all right? Nothing that they'll pay for. Except...
Which one?
William or George?
My boys.
You can't let them take Charlotte tomorrow.
Tomorrow?
Yeah, I know.
No, wait, what? You said that we had time.
Yeah, I thought we had time, okay? But I was wrong, okay? And look, if we don't do this now, then they're just going to take them. And then we'll be left with nothing.
And the others?
Hide them, okay? They'll think we've just got one.
What if they know?
Then they'll take Charlotte.
Oh, God. She's 3.
They don't care. Look, you know what they'll do to her.
Oh, God. They're animals. My baby girl.
We need to do this, okay? We need to decide. Which one?
I know William is older, and he seems so fearless, but at night he gets so scared. And George, he's so shy. And I can't. We can't. We have to go. We have to leave. We have to try.
What?
We have to try again. Come on. Come on.
Okay, kids. Who wants to go on an adventure?
Well, then we shall. Let's. And sweet.
Oh, lots of sweeties. Come on, come on, come on. Let's go. Lots of chocolates, lots of sweeties. More than you could ever imagine. Come on. Come on. Go get your toys. Let's get you down. Let's get you down. 1, 2, 3, go. All right, come on, over here, over here. Come on, come on, come on. Right. Here we go. We got to be quick. What do you want? What do you want? What about... that? I know it looks good. No!
William, come and hide under the sofa for me. Hide under the sofa, and you stay where? And you're going to stay there, and you're not going to come out, okay? Charlotte! Oh no, who are we going to find? Let's find Pepsi and Toffee and there they are. You pop in there. Good. Get in there like a little den. See how many fairies you can see. Okay, and then Mummy will come right back and get you. Okay? Good girl. Shh, shh, shh. Okay. It's time to play our favourite game. Favourite game. Favourite game. It's time to play our favourite.
Get out of my house! Get out of my house!
Let him go. Let him go. You're hurting him. Please.
Get out!
You lied. Where are the others?
No, please, just take me. Take me. You have me and my baby. Please.
That wasn't the deal, no. Was it?
Get
Please.
out!
Come. No, please. Take me and my baby. Oh,
Get out!
oh.
Get out! Right now! You leave me and my family alone!
Okay, it's all right. No.
Hey. No. That's not gonna work. Hey, no, shh.
Right, okay, sweet mum.
Mama, I can see the fairies. Mama, there are all the fairies gone.
Please, please.
Hello, little fairy. 1, 2, 3. I see you.
Hey. What's your name? Pretty girl.
Please, no.
So we just watched the film Unthinkable Conversations, directed by Emma Richardson. If you have any question, reflection, observation, please keep everything till the end of the next screening. Our next film is September 7, 2012. But before we get on to the next screening, I would love everybody to introduce themselves. Please introduce yourself and let us know which city you're logging in from.
Hi, everybody. I'm Bethany Osher. I am a senior lecturer in journalism, theory and practice, and director of education at Newcastle University School of Arts and Culture, which is in the northeast of England, and I'm speaking to you now from Durham City, which is one of the oldest cities in Britain, where Harry Potter was filmed. Everyone always knows it as. So hi.
My name is Ashley MacDonald. I'm a registered social worker and apparently now a filmmaker. And I'm coming from St. John's, Newfoundland, which is in Canada, and also one of the oldest cities in North America. So yes, thanks for having me.
Okay, so I'm Ian. I'm an associate professor of theory and practice here at, where am I? Singapore, Nanyang Technological University, Singapore. And you can probably tell by my accent, I am not Singaporean. I'm an Australian, but that's all from me.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sheetal Shah. I am actually in New York. I am a filmmaker, educator, activist, and very excited to be here. I also, if I may say, I was my short film was part of the last film festival, CMCS Wall of Fame Festival last year, so it's nice to be back.
And thank you for all the introductions. Yes, Sheetal's film was one of the top finalists, and very honored to have her back. My name is Samita Nandi. I'm the director of the Center for Media and Celebrity Studies. It is our 10th year, so we're 10 years old now, and we're celebrating this entire year. And we're sponsoring the Wall of Fame Film Festival. And the goal of this film festival is to honor ethical filmmakers and actors as role models beyond the tabloid politics of fame. And we're a huge supporter of human rights, animal rights, environmental sustainability, and really honored and touched by today's films. Unthinkable Conversations, and September 7, 2012, which we are about to see. They're both 2024 semi-finalists. I can't wait to watch September 7th, so just hold on to your seatbelts, hold on to your chairs. We're going to watch the next film, and then we're going to be back with questions and reflections for our next director, and that's Ashley MacDonald.
September 7th, 2012 will forever be in my memory.
September 7th.
September 7th, 2012.
September the 7th of 2012.
September 7th, 2012.
September 7th, 2012.
September 7th, 2012 is the day that I was raped. My name is Ashley, and I'm from St. John's, Newfoundland. I'm a social worker. I'm an advocate. I'm a community mobilizer. The pieces that I identify myself with the most are the work that I do, being an advocate for survivors and directly working with survivors of sexual violence. The first days, weeks, months after everything happened, it was definitely the darkest time of my life, definitely. I had a lot of trouble just going to work, going out with my friends. I didn't want to go to bars. I didn't want to go to public places. I didn't trust myself at that point. I was afraid that I didn't know how to judge a dangerous situation. I remember the day or 2 days after it happened, just lying in bed, thinking I guess I just have to die now. I can't live with this in my head. It either has to go or I do. And I think that was probably the saddest thing I've thought, just that I couldn't coexist with it. I didn't have the words to fully explain to anybody what that black space, that dark space inside of me was like. And then, yeah, it was It was just a really hard time. It was really dark, and it was really sad. Yeah. All right. Fuck. At some point, I just realized, like, I needed to do something. And so I went and I bought myself my first pair of hiking boots. And so I guess that was the first real, like, step that I could look back on and think, this is where the road started. From there, I went on my first September 7th trip in 2014. We went to Gross Mourne, and we took baths in rivers, and we climbed Gross Mourne Mountain, and we hiked to Western Brook Pond. In between those two things, though, I did this interview with Wendy Rose. She was working with the Herald at the time.
When I first met Ashley, she was an anonymous source for a story I was writing about surviving sexual assault. We sat in her car in the parking lot of the Basilica and cried.
It's so interesting to see where I was at the time versus where I am now. And like, it's like I'm bleeding everywhere. Like I'm just this like open wound. I'm so like uncontained and just like hurting so much. It's just, it's impossible not to hear it in the quotes. I have this day, September 7th, 2012. It is a day that is, you know, ingrained in my head as this really negative, terrible day that this horrible thing happened to me. And for a very long time, that was the only thing I could think about for that day. And when the opportunity came for me to work on this, the idea was that I would be able to find other people who had other experiences that day and talk to them and see what their days look like. You know, what were you doing? Why don't you tell me about September 7th, 2012? Like, what's the importance of that for you?
So it's the day that I flew to Canada.
I remember hearing that John Fogerty was coming to town.
That was the day that our surrogacy journey dreams came true.
The day that we found out that Amelia, your auntie, was pregnant with you.
I bought this car for me for my own birthday.
It's the day that my husband Ken said, please take me home. I want to go home to die.
What was your life like on that day? Because we know what happened on mine, but the rest of the world was moving still that day. The rest of the world didn't stop because I was going through something. The rest of the world kept going, and people lived and died and were born and got married and fell in love, and I needed to know about those. Majority of people just go September 7th, 2012. I don't know. I don't remember. But if you do remember it, it means that something happened that day that sticks with you for some reason.
My husband Ken had been battling pancreatic cancer for 9 years and 10 months. We got married in the hospital. September the 7th of 2012 was the day that he said, please take me home. I want to go home to die. He was just this pure, brilliant boy. And I just feel like I'm the luckiest person I know. When he first died, I had this recurring dream. And I was driving his MG, and I would go down a hill, and the ocean was there, and I would drive straight into the ocean. And I realized that it was this sense of drowning. I was drowning in sorrow.
September 7th, 2012. That was a day that I remember first starting to see the light after a depressive episode. I was diagnosed at 17 with major depression. It's a treatment-resistant kind of deal, so I've struggled with it long-term and chronically. I remember hearing that John Fogerty was coming to town. This was something that I grew up with. My parents, of course, loved CCR. And it was the first time in a really long time that I was excited. So I said to Dad, like, I'd really like to go to this. I was sitting there listening to the song, singing along, of course, thinking that, okay, maybe there's hope.
I grew up with a lot of social anxiety and stuff. It's always dictated what I did in life. September 7th, 2012 would be the first time that I made the conscious decision to live outside of my comfort zone.
Sunday night, my boys were at their father's house. I came home to an empty house after having a baby.
And I just kind of sat here in the quiet, and then it all hit me.
At the end of the day, she's just family.
There are not enough good words to describe her. She's magnificent.
September 7th, 2012, it was a big deal. I bought myself something. This is a Prius, and a Prius is an awesome, awesome car. Also, it's a chick magnet.
All those things were happening alongside my story and alongside my hurt. For me to think that I'm the only person who experienced September 7th, 2012 is a really lonely way to think about it. But for me to think that everybody experienced September 7th, 2012, and a whole bunch of people experienced something really interesting that day, now I can look at it and I see this whole community of people. And it's less lonely.
Over time, the crack will open and you'll see that little bit of light will come more frequently and be a little longer every time. Now I feel the gratitude so much more often than the sadness.
I started to have those glimpses of feeling better, and every day didn't feel like total shit. I didn't want to die. Like, you know, just that simple.
I thought, you know what, because I think I can't do it, I'm gonna do it. Go for it. And that's been my life motto ever since. For me, it's really been a journey of growth. You know, like I have my husband and 2 kids now. It's just a really happy place.
He's my reason for getting up in the morning. We wouldn't have him if it weren't for her. Yeah, I think that's the only way I can put it.
Almost 8 years later, he's still the best gift I've ever given. I know that I couldn't give him more than what they do. It would never happen. Yeah, he's amazing. My sweet boy.
Everybody's day is different. Everybody has their own view of what happened that day. If you asked me what happened the day before, it might have been a horrible day, but I bought a car on this day, and this was a good day.
I've had so much sex in that car, it's not funny.
Now, September 7th is a day that I climbed Grossmore Mountain, I did green gardens, I drank coffee and watched eagles fly over my head on my friend's front porch. I've done all these adventures, and most of them I've actually done alone. So it also started so now I camp alone, I hike alone. And so now when I look back, if I went through my photos for September 7th, it's gonna be hikes and trips and beautiful sunrises and sunsets. It's turned into a really positive thing that I do for myself now.
I usually wear a silver ring that says "Still Here," and to me, I got one for my mother because I just, one way or another, we're all still here. We all made it through September 7th, 2012, and we are still here. Still here.
It doesn't fix it, just like none of the things I've done fix it, because you can't fix it. It's not like a broken object. You don't get some screws or some glue and put it back together. I'm a different person than I was beforehand. And so instead, I work with what I have. That I have more good days now than bad days. Considering everything that happened, I think being able to wake up in the morning and get up and go and live my life and want to live my life, I think that is a wonderful feeling. I wouldn't have pushed myself to the limits that I have pushed myself to if there wasn't a group of people standing alongside of me saying, we believe in you. We think that you can do this. We still want you here, and we want you to be here and happy. We fast forward to where we are now, and other people's lives and the trajectory they were on, it all came together, and we've all found ourselves in this space. Hopefully it'll inspire other people to think of how they're part of a community and how those connections are important and how it can alter how you view your place in the world. It will continue to be the day that happened to me, just like it'll continue to be the day that happened to them. It makes it bigger. It makes it a bigger experience now.
Fortune favors the bold.
Cheers.
Cheers.
So guys, we just watched September 7, 2012 from Canada, directed by Ashley MacDonald, who is with us. And we also have our director, Emma Richardson, whose film we first watched. Any question, thought, reflection at this point for both the films? This is a question for all our panelists who are joining us today.
I just want to applaud you both. Both of these films are very moving and obviously very real. Obviously, Ashley, yours is more of a documentary, but just very moving and very relatable in a way that it's just so brave. It's just so brave for you to make these films. So just thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to echo that. I think that both of the films have got real currency in events that are going on in the world right now, and also the advancement of things like true crime in the media and journalism and crime is the work that I've just put out, the book, and about the ethical responsibility. Ashley, I'm very interested in your relationship with Wendy. And Emma, I think that yours really struck me today, that we know there are children who will be experiencing very similar issues to this morning with struggling for food and things like that. So I just want to applaud the currency. I think they're very important pieces of work.
Thank you, Bethany. Ian?
Yes, absolutely. Wow, I'm very touched by Ashley's film. And I guess because I spoke that before, about that film before we went on air here, I'd just like to swing the conversation to Emma's film, because yours was the opposite experience of, it was not touched, it was horrifying. I'm horrified. And I want to applaud you for making such an intelligent film, because the trauma is, you've made it, you've done a very clever displacement onto a white waspy family and what the implications of that would be. And even, you didn't even otherate the soldier. It's such a clever choice. It's such a unique film. It reminds me of the kind of experiments that Buñuel used to do, but with the added discourse of race in there, because everyone is, I notice you are blonde also, blonde and white, and the choice of the blonde white family and its implications for what are happening in different areas of the globe is it's an admirable film, truly admirable. I think both of these are admirable films, and I just want to break down the mise en scène further, but I'll let someone else go next. Thank you both.
Yeah, thank you, Ian. And I just found the narrative strategies of both films really strong, and some of the aesthetic choices too. Especially when I started watching Emma's film, I noticed those aesthetic choices, the erasure, the displacement, the contrast. And I assumed it was in a fictional setting of London, but also it's based on a true story. Emma, did you want to clarify that part?
Yes. So sorry about the previous technical issues. I just restarted my computer, but sometimes that's all you need to do. Thank you for having me. Thank you for including me in this. I'm really touched and humbled, and the comments, wow, thank you. The story, so I'm a journalist by background, and the story was a news report when I was in COVID lockdown with my 3 children. My 3 children are in the film, so that was a big challenge. And it was a news report that came on, and it was about families in Afghanistan having to choose a child to sell to feed the other children for them to survive. And by luck of where I am born and it is just luck of birth, I should never, and God pray never, have to go through anything like that, and I shouldn't, just because of where I was born. And I looked at my 3 children as we're sort of locked in a room, self-isolating, and I thought, if someone came into me and said, pick a child, and it haunted me that was happening to another mother, another father, another parent, another grandparent, whoever, and they would have to have that conversation, which child? And it just stayed with me, and that was how the film came about, because I couldn't fathom that actually happening right now. And then the war in Ukraine broke out 2 weeks later, and everything, and now obviously what's happening in Israel, it just feels, you know, families are going through everyone's going through so much, not fact, but everyone, and it's felt that it's still resonating, and it's shocking that this is still a reality, basically.
100%. I guess you can echo. Sorry. Maybe someone's not muted. There we go. From a filmmaking standpoint, what I loved, I pay attention to so much detail. We all do as filmmakers. I mean, as people. But the chipped cereal bowl. I don't know if that was intentional or not, but it was everything. It was brilliant. It was beautiful. It was so, like, talk about foreshadowing, talk about setting the scene, talk about showing, not telling. It was just like that. I was in, you know, like right away. I was like, that was amazing. That was brilliant. That was amazing. So I don't know, you know, where that came from, but just from a filmmaking standpoint, you know, looking at this as a film, you know, in that way, I just thought that as far as like the storytelling and you know, setting up the film and all, I just, loved it. That was great. Yeah.
Thank you. That it was intentional. It was very, I worked really hard to try and show not say. And that was a very, I just imagined, if you've been in this situation for a year, what would your world look like? And they would be burning their books for heat and their art for heat and the kitchen apart. It was those sorts of things, trying to fathom how, you know, you strive for this beautiful home, and then you're just tearing it down, because actually at the end of the day it's worthless, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you for noticing that. So that was like one of the smallest details we put into the film, and I'm really touched and chuffed that you noticed that, because it was very intentional. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you for doing it.
And sorry, Ian, go ahead.
No, please, after you.
I was just gonna mention that when I first watched the film and then I was thinking about it, I remembered Bethany's tweet on Twitter, and it was in relation to war, and she said, correct me if I'm wrong, Bethany, but you said hug your children, type something like that. Do you remember that? Like,
yeah, I mean, I'm from a journalistic background too, and one of the things I do is campaign in journalism and work. I went out to Greece to work in the refugee camps, and I have friends who we got in from Afghanistan. Some of my friends who had worked with journalists and campaigning with girls, and we eventually got to the UK and are building a life here. And it's that othering that happens often by journalistic media of people, of victims of war and victims of crime, that this idea of them being somehow other to the audience. And one of my experiences are, is that it's the similarities that are the things that strike me the most. And I will never forget, we'll send you the picture, but when I was in Greece, when the refugee crisis was at its height in Greece, we were working with these children in a camp, and one of them made a bed out of Play-Doh with them in it. And this moment with this child of like them projecting this moment of normality. They'd been on the road for a week, kind of 2 weeks with their family. They were, and it was that moment, and that's what I really think that your film does cleverly is to make it that it's not about the other. It's about the fact that we all, by fate, could go through this actually. And that, you know, people who have got really ordinary, normal, day-to-day lives with it, like us, are these are the people that are experiencing it. So that's why I thought it was really moving.
Thank you. That was very much my intention when I was trying to make it, and it was interesting when people first watched the film. I got a lot of comments like, "Is this some like dystopian, like sci-fi?" People were suggesting I put it into like a sci-fi film. I was like, definitely, I'm from Britain. This is a sci-fi. This is actually quite crazy that because of how I've set it and where I've set it, you've gone to sci-fi. I was like, and that was an interesting thing of your comment on the otherness of it. And it was like, no, this is a pure, nothing sci-fi about this world outside. This is reality. So, yeah, that was quite shocking for me.
I would love to also pay credence to the choices that you made in having no food and no milk in the bottles and the empty cupboards. I mean, as a filmmaker, the moment the cupboard's open and there's nothing in the cupboard and there's nothing in the cereal bowl, the water is coming out brown. It's such a clever choice, and it struck me as being very similar to the principles of magical realism. I know you're not making a magical realist film, but the idea that there is one element of reality that is changed from the reality that you're presenting makes it very poignant. It's the kind of thing that does make us go into the question of morality and ethics, and it's an intellectual peek to what we're doing. And at the same time, it has that pluralism of, but the mother is such a stunning actress that we're drawn into it emotionally, but we're also seeing the horror of it from a distance. So that's an extraordinarily hard thing for a filmmaker to achieve. I pay that. But coming back, so thank you, Emma. That's stunning. Thanks so much. Oh, here comes the echo. Nope, it's gone. Right, and I wanted to add that, you know, in thinking about both these films, Ashley's and Emma's film, we're seeing tragic events without a skerrick of violence on screen. We're not concentrating at all in Ashley's film about the second-hand, and please forgive me, Ashley, for the poor choice of words here, but the second-hand pleasure of vicariously reenacting that. And that's a really clever choice that you made. You focused all on the positive, and Emma, you focused all on the negative, and in the best possible ways. And I just, you know, it's always a moral choice to what you leave off screen, what you make deliberately part of the off-screen space. And even if you leave such tragic events, particularly like violence against women or war themes, if you leave it off screen, then you're still having an implication of it, but you guys left it completely off. And that means that the discourse becomes most important. Yeah, I found them both emotionally engaging, but the discourse becomes so sharp by making a choice like that. So, love it.
I just wanted to absolutely agree with you. And I think these films have a real essence of womanhood about both of them. And that there is this strong sense of a narrative of woman experiencing these things, but also the overcoming of things. And Ashley, and how incredibly moving. But I'm really interested in when you look back at that first piece, because you've kind of mediatized your experiences in two very different ways here. I'm really interested when you look back on that piece of journalism with Wendy, and you said that you can feel the rawness and the emotion sort of singing at you, but are you glad you did it? Are you glad that you memorialized that time and now have memorialized this time in two different ways? I'm interested in, and was it part of the journey of healing in any way to have that experience with the journalist? I thought it was a fascinating little moment in your film, and I wondered why you wanted to include that particularly.
Yeah, I mean, that first interview with Wendy was absolutely like that first step, and it was anonymous. People didn't know that it was me telling the story. I think the really sharp contrast there, though, is that initially when I did that interview with her, I was so deep in my trauma still that I didn't understand what I was saying to the world and how traumatizing my words were, and how reliving that experience wasn't actually helpful for the audience. People don't need to know the details of my assault to know that it was awful. That's not necessary, and so this film really embodies that idea. It is off-screen purposefully for several reasons. One, he doesn't get 1 second of my screen time or my budget. That's not his to have. This is my story. So that was part of it. And as we were going through and we were talking to people, a lot of people were like, we really need, like, shouldn't you be telling the story? Like, don't you need to get people's buy-in? And I'm like, people will buy in because they understand what sexual violence is. I don't need to tell them, the details of it for anybody to feel, to experience that. It's visceral. We know what that feels like. The audience understands that. I don't need to relive it on screen and traumatize my audience. Instead, I can leave that off screen and they can all go, oh God, we know how horrible this is, but let's move forward together. And so while I do think that the interview with Wendy was a really important step for me, I now in my role I work with survivors of sexual violence now. And when they're talking about doing media, we talk about some of those concepts, like what does it look like for this to be in the world forever? What are the words you're going to say? How are you going to feel about them when someone repeats them back to you? So like we talk a lot about those kinds of things. So yeah, thank you for asking about that. And thank you for noticing that, because it was really important to me to leave that off screen. And it definitely created some really interesting conversations behind the scenes with people.
I really applaud you for it, and I think it's something that as a kind of media community, the ethics of how we're dealing with crime and trauma in lots of different ways is something that is so important and not talked about enough at the moment. I think that your work really speaks to that in an interesting way, but also that idea of in this collaborative media world, how do we support victims to tell their own stories better? As a journalist, I was a crime reporter, so I've been the other person in that. I've been the Wendy, and I look back on that and think, what was my, and I was very young when I was a crime reporter, and I think, what was my ethical responsibility? What was I really doing there? But I'm also a victim of crime. I'm a survivor of crime myself. So how much was that my projection of dealing with what had happened to me? I think it's fascinating. It's such important work, Ashley.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And, Wendy and I have talked about that since, about how she would do the story differently, honestly, at this point. All these years later, she's like, I would tell a different story. And I said, I would give you a different response.
It's curious on that level that there's an inclusion of your face in 2012 crying in the article that you show. May I ask, as sensitively as I may, in what context was that photograph taken? Because that's the only indicator of the raw violence in your face that is that we see in the film.
So that photo is actually from the anonymous article. So it's not actually my face. It's just the timing within. There's a quote down below. That's my quote. But yeah, even getting me to cry on camera for this was, I was like, we're not making that movie. So it was really hard to get me into a moment where we were doing that. So yeah, that was someone else.
Full credence to you, because it's not sentimental. It's not, oh, poor victims us, which only becomes a masochistic discourse, and it's of no, well, it's not of no value. It's just of an entirely different value. But I wanted to ask, in particular, so it's very clear that you've joined these people together because of the one day and that experience you have. You've got such a diverse collection of experiences. How do you feel about including what seems in context so trivial, and that is, I bought a car. But I noticed when he's, and also, okay, so you made it very clear that life goes on. So it sounded like your laugh when he puts his hand over the camera and says, and I've had a lot of sex in that car. And it sounds like really genuine laughter that you're bringing to that. I thought, wow, it's like a man I respect very much once said that even though it would not be my choice as a filmmaker, I totally respect any choice that any filmmaker makes under the circumstances. And that is something I just wouldn't be brave enough to do. I wonder what sort of responses you've had to that moment and to that man. I mean, the man with the car.
Yeah. I mean, Jim is the levity this film needs.
Yeah.
I absolutely adore him. I think he's so funny. It was absolute genuine laughter. I was told by almost everybody who viewed the first version to cut him, and I would not. I was not cutting him. I was keeping him. I wanted the laughter. I wanted the joy. And I also wanted for a survivor of sexual violence to be allowed to have a sex joke in her movie.
Yeah.
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 I thought that all of those things were really important. Because we often strip away sexuality from survivors of sexual violence, and they're not allowed to be sexual. We're not allowed to make sex jokes. We're not allowed to do any of those things. And I am still a whole person who still finds it really funny that Jim has had a lot of sex in his Prius, which is a chick magnet. So yeah, it was all very intentional, and I was told by so many people to cut it, and my co-director and I were like, no, we cannot. We have to have him here, and we feel every showing we've had so far, you can hear the room just lift the second it happens, and everyone just feels like, oh, there's my breath. Okay, I'm good. And then we go back into it, and everyone can kind of regain their bearings, and it's a lovely moment, I think, and I'm glad I stood strong on it.
Yeah, fully pay it, and. No, I had something more to say, but we haven't heard from other people so much. So.
I was just gonna, can you hear me? Okay. So yeah, as a curator, one of the challenges I always have is how do I program? Of course, we haven't even reached the early bird deadline yet, and we already have so many submissions, but regardless, my challenge is how to program, and sometimes the academic part of me wants to look at consistency and relevance and flow of the theme. But when I was considering today, I actually thought of both of these films for a number of different reasons. First of all, as Bethany said, there's a feminist lens of inquiry. Both of you, Emma and Ashley, I mean, you are very good women directors. And I know, like, in a patriarchal setting of historical filmmaking, I know the challenges also. Sheetal also knows some of the challenges. And I also noticed the contrast. And one is like, Emma's film, particularly, it's very, it's tragic. You feel the horror without showing the horror. Same with Ashley's film too. But there is a sense of, direction, moving forward, and I felt what lies in common with these two films is what's something most of us are craving to see. So, and in a time of war right now, this is, I see the cries, out there on social media. It's like this helplessness, but also what I found in these two films is it's human. And so I found that in common for both the films, what's human here, and this, without othering, this life force. So if anybody has any thought on that, you can expand on it, or, you don't have to, but I mean, that was just a reflection. And I also felt in general, I know we're running short with time right now. But I found an element of sustainability also. The way Emma used intentionally or not, like the erasure on the whiteboard, and in your film description you said like children are being bought and sold like cattle, and what's being erased, like what's sustainable here. And so I think and then with Ashley's film also, it's like this life force and showing nature. I feel overall, and there's no right or wrong answer here, but I feel like there is an element of sustainability, and I think we're speaking for all species, all life forces, and what is truly in heart of us. So that's what I felt, and at the very least human. So that's what I would say here. Any other final thought from anybody?
If I may, speaking of the other, thank you for, I feel a bit like the other for the obvious reason at the moment. But I just want to celebrate again Ashley's film because as Bethany said, she identified with the journalist. Well, I have personal experiences that mean I identify with you, Ashley, and that for a man to be able to place himself into your film as such was a wonderful opening and a non-judgmental space for you to do so. I came into today going like, Samita and Andy, she's always having all these positive comments. Well, I'm going to damn well say something negative, and not to be negative, but to be constructive through criticism, and I just don't have anything negative to say. I'm disappointing myself. So I celebrate both these films completely and utterly. And at the moment, I'm writing a paper on Angelina Jolie's work in the film on Cambodia from 2017. First They Killed My Father, and I find it an extremely sentimental narrative, and neither of you have done that. You've given such intelligent commentary. That's all I'll say. Thank you.
I want to say thank you also. Samita, you that's the word I think I was looking for. It's so human. I don't know, it is. It's just so palpable. It's just so human. And it's again just so brave and real. So I can't thank you enough. The storytelling, everything about what you've done is just wonderful and brilliant. And I'm glad it's out in the world. So I hope you get to put it out in the world more and more and more, because the world really needs to receive it. So thank you for making these films.
Yeah, and I also wanted to ask Ashley and Emma if anybody wanted to get in touch with you to talk about your film or support your film. How can people be in touch with you, Ashley and Emma?
Yeah, I can be reached. I have an email, unabashedimages@gmail.com, and you can get me there, or also on my Instagram, which is unabashed images as well. So I can be found on either. So yeah, and if anybody wants to get in touch or talk about it more, I would always welcome that. And I also just want to quickly add, thank you all for your comments, but also Ian, thank you for feeling that this was a safe space for sharing that. So thank you.
Emma?
Yes. So again, thank you. This has been lovely to talk about the film and talk about both of our films, and I think it's really lovely that we've actually been programmed together and had this together, because we've got told very different stories, but very just I can't the words. It's going to sound trite what I say, but they're just, I think it's lovely to have this moment together. If you want to get in touch with me, my company's Dreammaker Films. My email's all on there. That's probably the easiest way, just to Google that. And I think the only comment I wanted to make was, the thing for me when I made the film was my children are in it, so I actually cast my own children in it, and that was because I could never ask another parent to put their kid in into a film that I wasn't willing to put my kid into. So that was also emotionally very, very challenging, and very interesting. Like, and then trying to get my children to act with me directing was also very challenging, but just practically. And that was something that I'm very grateful to my kids. They rose to the occasion. They were brilliant in it, and that also helped in how I was directing things and how I thought about things very differently, like trying to protect your children from seeing this, which is, I think, what everyone's trying to do at the moment, is protect their children from seeing some of the things in the world and keep their innocence and try and preserve that. And a lot of that innocence has been lost through so many ways. And that was very much in my mind when I was making the film. But anyway, I'm sorry, I'm rambling a little, but I wanted to thank you all for having me. It's been a real honor, and it was a lovely experience, so thank you.
You directed your children beautifully, really beautifully, and full commendation to them. It reminded me of the kind of performances that John Cassavetes got out of his own children, and he was working very much in the kind of realist style that you're working in. So prints to that. But we got to stop now, Samita, don't we?
I appreciate your Buñuel reference, though, Ian, too. I really appreciated that. I could see that, yeah. So thanks for bringing that up anyway.
But, even Buñuel is doing something in his surrealism and his commitment to his view of politics. He was doing something far less emotionally brave and far less emotionally committed.
Yes. But I love that there was like a strong point and a twisting of what, a twisting of narrative, which I found that you too, Emma, had a very strong story, a very solid and strong storytelling, and a very clear point of view, and a clear, just very brave and clear,
Yeah, and we have a long way to go till July 27th. That's the annual film festival date, and not everybody gets selected, and it's a very tough choice to make. But fingers crossed. And, Bethany, any last thought or question before we meet for our next panel? And it's going to be for this book that I have here, Celebrity Culture, and also Bethany just published her book too. It's crime and journalism.
Yeah, it's journalism and crime, and the last chapter is really about the ethical responsibilities and how we shift them of journalists, particularly dealing with victims of crime. It's called What's to Be Done, the final chapter, but the book begins with the origins of crime pamphlets in the 1500s, and I think that is such an important conversation for the media, with the kind of like boom of true crime. It's just everywhere. It's saturating us at this point. So as I say, I really commend your work on this, Ashley, and hope to continue the conversation with you on our ethical responsibilities, and hopefully with Wendy too. I love the fact that she said she would deal with it differently. There's certainly things that as a crime reporter I would too. So, and I think that's just, sorry, Samita, but I think that's such a thing of both of your films too, of that moment of something, or I'm experiencing, or I'm witnessing, or this thing is happening, and how do I put something out into the world that creates a conversation about it? And it's something that's in my soul that I think I really appreciate about your work too, that, we need more people who these moments spark, trying to make the conversation better, or trying to make people think differently. So thank you.
Thank you too. And we didn't get to say bye to Ian, but just wanted to say thank you to all of you, and let's continue the conversation, and congratulations for your selections as semi-finalists, Emma and Ashley, and we have a long way to go, and keep an eye out for all the updates and notifications, and regardless, we have your support for your films, so very proud. We'll be in touch, and congratulations, and have a wonderful Sunday ahead.
Thank you. Bye-bye.